to get all the Christmas decorations down because that kind of holds you back because it's hard to let go. Even though Ben and I were just talking right before this is how we could, how you can generate interest in a podcast or in anything. And I was thinking, Ben, I saw this on today. I saw a headline that said Dollywood is closing at the end of 2025. And I'm like, you are kidding me. And so I go there and it's like, this whole thing for 40 years, this was the best year they've had, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And they'll be closing until they open back up in March. And I'm like, what a lame-o thing. So we should have done that. We should have said,
it's so
this
crazy.
is just like, but it must work. So
Well, yeah, it
thank
does
you
if
for
you
sticking with us, even if
for
we
it.
don't have clickbait type gimmicks. I wish we
right.
could think of some good ones. But I hope you had a great Christmas. I know we had a wonderful time. It's hard to believe that was like 2 weeks ago. I mean, it's just like almost mind blowing. You work so hard, and you're going the whole month of December talking about it's going to be over before you know it, and then it's over before you know it, and then you just sail into the doldrums of winter.
Yep, nothing to look forward to for months and months, but it's okay. We can make it. It does go quick though. I mean, I always feel like it drags on forever, but the reality is I feel like it does actually move quicker than you feel like, but sometimes it feels endless initially, but
hey, and I want to thank you too. I was just thinking about this just maybe today, maybe it was yesterday. Thank you for being a part of what we do because there are a lot of podcasts out there to listen to, and I've noticed that a lot of the podcasts, maybe even that are geared towards homeschoolers, aren't always about homeschool. So I hope that you come here to be encouraged in what really matters. I know I get encouraging emails all the time from moms just like you who need us to encourage you to do what matters. And that's what we're going to do today. We're going to tonight or whenever you're listening to this. We're going to take because this is like the precipice of a mountaintop. We're going to look back over 2025 and maybe look at some of the blessings that some of the listeners had and look forward to opportunities and what the year holds. Because like Ben said, it does feel like I said the doldrums of winter, but it's amazing how quickly we'll be to Easter, and then it'll be summer. And then we'll be talking about the end of the school year. And, I know you're like probably thinking, yeah, right, whatever. It's never going to get here. But it goes so fast. And even as we kind of finish up our homeschooling, it's amazing how quickly it passes. I know you think you're going to be in it forever, but it's just over before you know it. I know my wife was going through a big stack of books out in our back entryway. And she goes, what should I do with all these? And I mean, every book she held up, I'm like, I used to sit in our bathroom. That was the one, the Osborne book on the ships, and like, do we give them to, Ben and Rissa or Sam and McKenna? And there's just so many good resources. And you think they're going to be sitting around forever, but they're not. They're not.
Yeah, no, that's true. It is crazy. Yeah, this is Mom's last semester, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and yours, but hers specifically. So
I had mine a long time ago.
Yeah, that's true. But pretty crazy. But yeah, I mean, and you actually, kind of, asked that over on Facebook. But I mean, yeah, looking forward to the year. I'm not a huge, resolution kind of guy or anything like that. I actually was listening to a podcast or something, and the guy was talking about how he wanted to lose weight, and he was talking to his doctor, and he's like, I said this very dryly. He was like, I'm thinking, I don't know if anyone's ever thought about this before, but I'm just thinking maybe I'll use the new year as a chance to just, make a decision that I'm just going to change everything about my life, and I'm just going to be better going forward. And the guy's like, are you dumb? And then I think he realized it afterwards, but it's like, it's part of the tradition. But I mean, it looks like you got a lot of good answers here of what things people are looking forward to. Do you have anything that stood out though in 2025?
Well, you know what? I thought maybe we should talk before we look forward. Maybe we should look back, and so I asked, back on Facebook a couple of weeks ago, I said, or maybe a week and a half ago. I said, what are you thankful? Looking back, what were some of the highlights? And I know, several people answered, and they said things like, I'm thankful for Jesus and supportive husband, 3 kids, friends who are real and in the school trenches with us. I mean, even that one, that's a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
To have someone who walks alongside you, or I know some of them mention being in a co-op, and how that's like a second family. I mean, it really is a
Yeah,
wonderful thing
that's huge.
to have people that you can do this with. Because back in the day, I mean, really when we first started, even though there were some great big homeschool groups, you felt kind of lonely. You felt
Mm-hmm.
like you were the one of the few. You didn't take your kids to McDonald's in the middle of the day because you thought, man, someone might report you. Now every kid and their grandparent is out there on Wednesday, so it's not the same way. But there were several others, Ben. Did you see any that you thought
Yeah,
were
I mean, I
interesting?
think new babies as something that at least a couple people maybe mentioned. That's
Hmm.
always obviously a super special time, and is always a huge milestone for any family. I mean, for me specifically, my wife and I got to finally take a trip that felt like it was actually like a little getaway. Our one before that was a disaster, and we hadn't really gotten to do that very often, more than just like one night. So that was a highlight for us. Some of the highlights are small things, even just like milestones with the kids is always fun. This past year, this was a big one for me, and someone gave us the opportunity to go to the Indianapolis 500, which is a big race here in Indiana. I'd never done that growing up, and I did it with the 2 oldest kids, and it was just super, super fun. So some of those kind of things, those experiences it really stick with you forever. So I'm really thankful for that. But I think the important thing too is just, there's the good stuff, but it is also, the reality of a year can be hard. I mean, Rissa shared a while ago that really, the second half of the year was a pretty rough year. And that doesn't mean the year was terrible. It means that a lot of stuff, was good, but it affected everything from our homeschooling to, to just the kids, everything, but it was in a positive, in the end, you look back and you go, that was a lot of value there, and it was really fruitful, even though in the moment it doesn't always feel that way.
Yeah, I mean, even Anita said, she was looking back. She was just, these are such basic things, thankful for living in America. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I think
Yeah.
we take that for granted. I mean, we hear all the things on the news, whether that's, in Venezuela or the Ukraine or pick any other country. And you think how hard it is to live in that world, but how hard to homeschool in that world. And I just jotted this down earlier. My wife said, your mom said something that was just like, well, this is such a big deal. And I said, oh, that's a first world, issue.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, oh, and I was thinking about even homeschooling. Those are first world homeschooling issues. We're so concerned about, are our kids going to learn presidential facts? And really, those are
Yeah.
things that other countries, they don't even have the time to think about those things. They're just surviving. And so we have so much to be thankful for, and really a great year without having to worry about any of that.
Yeah. I saw someone said learning about, living books or just good books where her kids, kind of clicked, and they're saying, can we just read a little bit more? And they didn't want to stop. Like Little House in the Big Woods was one that she called out, which I know I loved, or the best Christmas pageant ever.
Mm-hmm.
And that's always a really fun thing, is when your kids start, kind of engaging with stuff more, especially if they're little, you don't really get a lot of that. And then when it does, when you do get something like that, it's just so fun. It's always encouraging.
Really, that's such a great thing, because living books are, that's even kind of a catchphrase. But there's something wonderful about having those kind of in your heart, that
Mm-hmm.
you, whatever, the Moxon Trail or all those other Sign of the Beaver, or just great story. Even the last 2 nights, we have watched the 2 episodes from Little House on the Prairie. I mean, this is with my adult boys, and I'm like, why don't we watch Little House on the Prairie? And no one
Yeah.
complained, and it
Yeah.
was
Because
so
they're
fun.
incredible. Well,
If you can't, if you don't smile when Michael Landon laughs, when Paul
yeah,
laughs,
that's right.
you don't have a heart.
Or Mr. Edwards. I
Oh,
think Kelly here said, having my reluctant learner make a connection in history and excitedly telling me about it because he read it alone and understood. Again, that is like just one of those things that seeing your kid learn something without you, I think is kind of just something you can't really ever understand until you're a parent. And then it's just such an amazing thing to be like, wow, my child has interests and is learning things and is excited about things. And that's so cool. Just builds you up.
And maybe lastly, and then we can kind of take a commercial break here, Ben. But just there were several people who said they were just thankful for maybe graduating a senior or being the last to graduate, or maybe a kid going off to college. And I know those are such huge milestones. And I know when you begin the homeschool journey, they seem so far away, like a distant island in the middle of the sea. But you get to them so quickly, and they are wonderful. They are wonderful, but that's not the end. You still have more to do. You're always training, always being an example. But they really are wonderful highlights to end a wonderful year.
Yeah, for sure. Well, real quick, we do want to say thank you to Teaching Textbooks for helping make the Smiling Homeschooler possible. They're just an amazing math curriculum and an amazing supporter of us through 2025 and going into this new year. So, if you've gotten through the first half of the year and you haven't liked your math curriculum and it's just not working out, it's not too late to switch. It's okay to make that decision and just say, you know what? We're going to do it. They have free trials. They have family plans you can sign up for that are monthly, and it works pretty much on any device that has an internet browser. So go check them out over at teachingtextbooks.com. We really appreciate their support.
And we also want to thank Redeem Health Share by Samaritan Ministries for making today's show possible. If you're like others I've talked to, maybe the changes in the Affordable Care Act have you worried. Can I encourage you to check out Redeem Health Share? It's Christians helping other Christians with their healthcare needs, and I think they might just be the solution to your concerns. They have multiple programs and options to fit the budget and season of your life. We've been members for over 15 years and couldn't be happier. You can learn more about Redeem Health Share in the show notes.
Nice.
Well, Ben, why don't we just go the other side of the mountain, kind of with, we've looked back just for a few minutes. How about looking forward? Because, this is kind of a fun time. It does kind of feel like new beginnings. Maybe it feels like old beginnings, maybe it's that where you're dreading certain things or, and everybody's brain is kind of refreshed. So you're kind of ready to step out again, like you said about exercising or whatever. And I think people are feeling that in homeschooling.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's always just, whether you like the whole, January 1st is the day, but it does give you kind of a time of change. And there is just something mentally about it. I went to Planet Fitness today and I was going to see if there was going to be, the huge influx of people who you've never seen before. And actually there wasn't. So I don't know if I just didn't go at the right time or not, but it is interesting, how many people do start stuff up. But you asked, over on Facebook what some of those were. And people always had good answers, but I like this one where it's just real, where they said, good question. I guess the goal is just to finish the school year strong. There's nothing specific, didn't have to get into something super complex, just finish, because that's a legit real goal, I think.
Yeah.
So
I know Christina said, I'm looking forward to having our flexible routine back. I know lots of people kind of talk about that. They talk about it's been really fun not to have a routine, but your kids start getting a little snappy about, when you call them to do something. And they're like, even yesterday, Monday, my wife said to me, kind of whispered to me, so do you think it's okay to get Jed back in school, to let him start up again? And I'm like, yeah, we're ready, I think. And she asked Jed, Jed, hey, I'm thinking about you starting doing it. He goes, okay. And I said, well, that was good, Jed. So you're anxious to start? He goes, no, I wish we didn't have to do it, but I guess I can. Which is
better than
true.
I would be.
Yeah.
Let's see. I was just reading through because some of them are things specifically to, their specific curriculums or things like that. But this one I thought was interesting. They said we're taking a month off normal curriculum and just doing a unit study about like careers and trades, and then they're going to end up with like a co-op career fair project, But I thought the idea of, just saying, hey, we're not going to do our books, our normal books. We're going to just do a deep dive in something or really talk about, maybe your kids are getting older, and that is something that's more important or helpful, or saying, you know what, we're doing a family business thing for a whole month or whatever it may be, or helping someone out, that's totally legit. And I think it's just so cool to see like the flexibility that it just provides. It's something you couldn't do otherwise very easily, at least.
Well, I know Don also said they were looking forward to getting back into co-op and looking forward to making new friends at a homeschool group they recently joined. I know this is also the time where co-ops have kind of taken a break, and now they're starting back up again. And just an encouragement to you, if things aren't working like you would like them to, it's okay to change. Maybe it's a co-op that doesn't bring your family joy. If it doesn't bring you joy, look for a different co-op. There are plenty of groups. Maybe you start a group, and maybe it's not a big deal. Maybe it's just moms getting together who can talk and be real. Because if I was going to look forward to the coming year, that's what I would want. I would want to have a group or have a person that I could just share what's going on in my life, because I think you will make it through with flying colors if you just have someone to fly along with you.
Yeah, it is so important. Anita said, this school year starting in September, I try to be more flexible and go with the flow, which is awesome. We do need to work more on writing skills. I'm just so grateful for homeschooling, flexibility, and not really looking forward to anything specifically in 2026. But it seems like she understands the joy part of homeschooling, or at least the strength of homeschooling, which is just awesome. So, that's something. I mean, we had multiple. I don't remember who we were talking to recently, but it was something like that where they just realized, I just kind of have to let go, stop trying to have it all just be exactly what my plan is. And it really changed their whole outlook on homeschooling. So I think if you needed a time to make that decision of, I'm going to just be a little bit more relaxed about things, second half of the year, great time to do that.
I think so. I mean, even Jennifer, she said, she was saying something like she was going to get back to general routine, but also her goal to take more field trips, enjoy more varied outings and experiences together. She'd also like to be a better meal planner, which are all great things, but you almost need to go, yeah, it's not going to happen. Just throw them away. You're going to be dealing with some of these things to the end of your days, and you're going to be on you're breathing your last and going, I wish I had planned a meal for this, or something like that. Because I know that weighs heavily on you. Even as I mentioned in the beginning of the show that I was looking through some old books that we had, and my wife wasn't sure whether to pitch them or to give them away or what. And as she opened them up, one was a history book, and it had I just saw a picture of Abraham Lincoln's face, and it showed how you could draw it, and and I thought, because that means something about Abraham Lincoln. But I know you moms love it when your kids may have the opportunity to draw Abe Lincoln's face or map out where he went in his childhood.
Yeah.
But it's okay if you can't get to those things. If you can just I can't remember whose name it was, if you can sit on the couch and just read some books together and plug away at math together and have some Bible time together, I think you will have achieved a lot.
Yeah.
And it only takes, a little here and a little there. And before you know it, they've learned a lot. So
I think it's also,
I hope, go ahead.
Super important. Just, if you are making changes or wanting to adjust, don't try to do everything in one big go. I was watching a YouTube video a while ago where the guy was like, he had a list, of so many things he was going to try to do this year, and you're like, if you can get 2 of those, that's amazing, but 17 points or whatever it is, it's just not going to happen. No one can do that. So have grace, for yourself and realizing the limitations. So if you are or person, I think it's just okay to, know that it's not gonna all happen.
Right. And in fact, as we close this thing down, here's what my
I don't want to close it down yet. Actually, I have a
okay,
question.
go
I
ahead,
want to
Ben. You go ahead. You read your question first.
No, this is from a Facebook message that we got that I thought was a good question. So she said, "Hi, this question. Let's see. I know Ben's a history buff, but do you think history can be done sufficiently in high school without textbooks for a student who isn't an avid reader? It's a struggle to make them read a big textbook, and I'm not at all interested in reading myself. I love history, but I know that's much more enjoyable through living books, movies, etc. And I'm very comfortable with the approach from elementary and junior school, high school, or junior high, but I'm a little bit more overwhelmed with my fresh high schooler." So I thought that was just an interesting question. We've kind of actually briefly mentioned it a couple of times as kind of history and,
okay, you go ahead and answer, Ben. Go ahead.
I would say you do not need to read textbooks to be okay in school. Now, he said he isn't an avid reader. So, I mean, obviously you don't just pick it up all, just from randomly necessarily. But honestly, movies or living books, as you said, I mean, that is 100% legit. Or, there's tons of amazing documentaries, or there's, things you can go see or hands-on with stuff. I mean, there's a lot that history is. And unless you are in a state that's like testing specifically for something and it's required 100%, or there's some reason you think he's not going to be able to, he has to have answers for a specific thing, I do not think it matters.
And there's no college that would ever ask that as
Right.
that's not an SAT question. That's not an ACT thing. You just don't have to worry about that.
Yeah.
I would say, there's nothing wrong with taking a kid in high school and you're reading a book to them. We think that's a little kiddish. That's not a little kid thing. That's just a family thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I've talked to lots of people who, the dad I was not one of those dads. I wish I was, who the dad reads every night to their kids. And what a great memory thing to have, and to sit on a couch and again to read across 5 Aprils. I think it's 5. It might be 4. It might be 4 Aprils. It's 4 or 5 Aprils. But it is a great story on the Civil War. The Sign of the Beaver. All those are just the big wheel. Which is about the World's Fair and the Ferris guy who made the Ferris wheel. It's all so interesting, and I'm telling you, you don't have to be a history guy or a history person. They're just good stories, and everybody likes a good story. So do not worry about that. I'm giving you permission to not do the textbook. Don't do the textbook. It just kills learning.
I think
they won't learn anything. You won't learn anything.
Guaranteed way to just destroy it. If there's even a hint of enjoyment there, something else I think you can do is, like Dad posted about it recently, World Watch. If you subscribe to that, you can watch something on that. Or also, if you see something on the news, something I really, really like, and this is where I think history is so relevant to day-to-day stuff, is, has this happened before? So let's say a ruler of a government, gets taken out of his palace. You can be like, has this ever happened before? And go do a deep dive into that, research that, read some articles, go into Wikipedia, watch videos, like all that kind of stuff is an awesome way to just, take interest that your kid might actually have, in something that happened recently, or if anytime there's a question. I think that's just really fun. Me and my kids will sometimes talk about it. Like the kids will be like, oh, or, what's the tallest mountain? And then we'll, get to talk about mountains, for a little while. And I think that's totally valid, 100% beneficial history, and is really plenty. If they can have a conversation and just enjoy it and not be afraid of it or think it's the dumbest thing ever, then you have already done a ton more than most people will ever have interacted with history.
Yeah. And I would say too, again, that, if your kid's not a history person, you're not a history person, it's okay not to do history. You can just pick some of these books. You can read them. You can just, again, I'm glad Ben said something about World Watch, because I've got a special deal for you right now. If you use a code, it will be the best deal you'll get from World Watch ever. You'll get the first 4 months free if you use this code when you check out. And it's super simple. It's just Todd, TODD, with the number 4. Todd 4 will give you 4 months off. You got to subscribe, and it's still very inexpensive. It's super professional. It's 10 minutes of smiles every single day, 10 minutes of news from a biblical perspective. it's my kids still their favorite part of homeschooling. Okay, Ben, can we close then?
Yep, that's a good spot.
Okay, we have our permission. I don't remember what I was going to say. Oh, here's what talking about like New Year's and New Year's resolutions. Here's the one that I'd like you to make. Not to do more, but could I encourage you maybe to do one thing less? Maybe you take one thing that's really bugging you out of your homeschool, which is okay, because it will cause you to smile more. It will take away some of the frustrations, and their kids are probably not learning very much during that time anyway. Again, if it's math, I'm sorry, you probably still have to kind of struggle through that. But maybe you reduce it a little bit, but just get rid of something, because I think this next semester you should do a little less and smile a little more. And that's why you come and listen to the Smiling Homeschooler. So thanks for listening. Have a great week, and I hope you smile a whole bunch in 2026.
We appreciate each and every one of you being here. Again, if you are listening on a podcast app and you haven't before, if you could leave us a review, that would just be fantastic. It's a great way to help spread the word about what we do. And make sure you share it with a friend if you haven't before. There's a lot of homeschooling moms out there who just need more encouragement. Again, thank you to Teaching Textbooks for making what we do possible. Go support them and tell them that you appreciate their support of us over at teachingtextbooks.com. Also, thank you to Samaritan Ministries, a community of Christians that pay one another's medical bills, helping families take a safe step of faith as they feel God's leading in career or ministry changes or in bringing mom home. And you can learn more and support us by clicking that link in the show notes. But have a great week, and don't forget to smile, and we'll see you next week.